Attention, all you fishes in the sea. Welcome to the Fisch Bowl with Sam Fish.
Jon Klein on the Fisch Bowl. Welcome. Thank you for
Greetings.
greetings. Thank you for taking the time to swim in the bowl with me. I'm excited. I'm a big fan. So I apologize if I'm a little tongue-tied.
No, yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, I was a fan of quite a few people I worked with before I worked with them, so I totally know.
Awesome. I don't even know where to start with the extension of your career, and I imagine it'll probably take many conversations to dissect what's going on up there and the experiences and everything. But the first question that I like to ask my musician guests is what got them interested in music slash who would you say some of your like major influences are?
Right. So, for me, honestly, I guess kind of noisy electric guitars, obviously. So, coming from that direction, I would have been kind of a 70s teenager. So glam rock in England, wouldn't it? I think. Well, glam rock and kind of and rock and pop music. I mean, everything did kind of mix itself up at that time. So, you have cool people like Bowie doing kind of rock music and Roxy music and T-Rex kind of making quite strong kind of riff music. But then I remember being on the bus home from school, hearing some older kids talking about Jimi Hendrix. And one of them asked the other a question just now, well, who do you think's the best guitarist in the world? Thought of which had never occurred to me anyways. And the other one goes, oh, Jimi Hendrix. In my mind, I had this kind of academic kind of, oh God, McLaughlin-esque player in my head. So I eventually got to see Jimi Hendrix kind of performing on TV or whatever. It was like, wow. That was a real shock, it just was.
Right.
Plus, it was really funky. I mean, I really got into, I think Hendrix, it was the gentle stuff I got into and the quite abstract stuff first. They were just the most alien to me. That was super interesting. And then I guess by kind of mid to late teens, then the punk rock thing kind of happened in England. So that kind of, that changed a lot of perceptions, didn't it, really? I mean, I did love the Sex Pistols sound. That record.
Definitely.
Albeit only one, it just kind of had a certain sound. And the curious thing is, some of that's the amplifiers that they were using. Because, when I made the Metal Boxing dub album with Joe Wobble a few years ago, I was kind of listening really close to the original Public Image stuff. And I started suddenly noticing similarities that I'd never noticed before between Keith Levene and Steve Jones's sound in the Pistols.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally when you think about Public Image, it's more prog actually, which
Right.
I always thought was uncool when I was a kid. But then using funny time signatures and being a little bit more conceptual. But there are certain bits of air riffs where it just, for a couple of chords, it just slips into a Pistols moment. Even on Public Image, a single, there's a couple of chords that fill in on the chorus because it's doing what the Edge stole for U2 sound, wasn't it?
Right.
But when he bangs into it,
Exactly.
actually sounds more Pistols like when I remembered it. So that was curious.
Awesome. I mean, all the bands you just listed, I mean, this is like I was born in 88 and I kind of grew up, like my dad is a couple years older than you and he really, was a big 70s, age kid as well. And he talks about all the bands of like the major classic rock era, Hendrix being one of them. He got me really into Hendrix, and my favorite iteration of Hendrix is Band of Gypsies.
They're amazing, aren't they? Yeah.
Oh my God. Like my prediction is if Hendrix would have lived, he would have, my personal belief based on Band of Gypsies and the where like you had James Brown go and the rise of like, P Funk and funk really like becoming a big thing. I foresaw him going down that road.
Yeah.
Just way more like heavy, acid rocky, funky, like kind of funk. That's where I kind of saw him heading, but he never got the chance to go. But one of the legends, and then talking about glam rock, my dad saw Bowie a bunch of times, talks about the performances and how I wish I could have seen Bowie. He was one of my all-time favorite artists as well as kind of musician cult actors. I
Yeah.
mean, one of my favorite films, especially as a kid, is Labyrinth. Not to
Yes.
mention the soundtrack, and then going back even deeper, talking about guitar, Mick Ranson, you know, uh, uh,
Awesome. Brilliant.
Ronson, yeah, their cover of their live cover. I'm waiting for the man.
Mm.
One of the best rock and like just jamming, shredding, live performance riffs. And my dad also got me into Zappa. I'm a huge Zappa fan. I actually just shout out to the newest live album, or 50th anniversary of I forget the name, but it's that live album with him and Captain Beefheart.
Oh, wow.
Um,
50 years.
uh,
Yeah, that made me click.
yeah, I
Well,
know.
and funnily enough, also, I saw some podcast done in a record shop in LA, and it was just choose your top five vinyls, and it was with Steve Vai, and he put like I think Ziggy Stardust was his number two. His number one was actually Alice Cooper, Billion Dollar Babies.
That's a great album. I think
That's really,
that's his best album
mm,
out of
song
that.
wise, was
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I would say, I mean, first of all, Hello Hooray to open Billion Dollar Babies. That's one of my all-time favorite songs from Alice Cooper. And then just the whole like story of the album, but especially the last. Alice Cooper had a real like trademark for making like the last three songs of all his albums like they all kind of were like one long song, or like they it was either done like that or like they all you had to listen to them in that order. They were like separate entities, but they all went together. It was like in a three-song lineup order. And
I'll
Billion
make
Dollar
a note of
Baby,
this. I'm going to go back and check that.
yeah, like especially I'm talking about like the 70s Cooper, like you can hear it in Love It to Death, the last three tracks, School's Out, last three tracks, Billion Dollar Babies, last three tracks, and Killer also has the last three tracks. It all kind of flows together, like his main or like early like 70 or I guess 70s stuff all had like that three-song lineup at the end. And Billion Dollar Babies, it's there's Sick Things is like the middle one. The last one is I Love the Dead. I'm forgetting the name of the one that starts it off, but just
Got a
awesome,
better
awesome.
memory than me.
And Alice Cooper, another one of my favorite cult actors. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
Oh, it's fantastic. But yeah, I remember that we had got a really kind of posh, really old English teacher at school. And yeah, he was obsessed by Alice. He just wanted to get the class to talk about. I can't remember how he described him, but he was to totally kind of shocked and outraged by him, but strangely obsessed and just wanted to talk. Couldn't understand how young people would be worshipping this guy that was guillotining himself on stage. The rest, yeah.
Amazing stuff. I mean,
Mm,
and then talking about the punk rock era, again, the Sex Pistols, awesome, awesome band. I mean, I love you like the UK punk scene, and I love the like American punk scene as well. Like,
Yeah.
and like it was, I thought it was really cool how like both were going on at the same time. But I remember watching a documentary where like the English ones compared to the American ones, like with the Sex Pistols, like they were breaking bottles and like slicing themselves and everything. And apparently if I remember correctly, the American ones were a little more tame compared
Yeah.
to.
What I think, I guess probably Sid Vicious is probably responsible for a lot of
Right,
those
right.
stories, and he was just like, well, he was a crazy kid that had a mum who was a junkie and that was a latchkey kid and probably just wanted the attention, I guess, as much as anything else. But then I'll tell you what was a really good read a while ago. I read a biography about Malcolm McLaren. And it's really, I don't know if it's because I'm English and I went to art school, but it is so interesting. It's about 800 pages, and just the way that the way that he ended up doing half a dozen art degrees, because you could just con yourself into a college in a different borough by, if you could talk the talk with with the establishment, with the administration and bureaucracy. So
Right.
he did quite a few different art courses. I don't know if he really finished any of them. I think the last one of which is where he met Jamie Reed, who was already kind of more of an activist that did all the artwork for the Pistols and stuff. But the whole idea of kind of getting into retail. Actually, one of his art teachers was also the father of Damon Albarn, the singer in Blur, as
Oh,
well,
wow.
McLaren. So, but then that thing of him, the New York Dolls walked into his clothes shop one day and it changed his world. And he followed them to America. And so I think his plan was, when that fell apart after the red patent lever and the hammer and the sickle operation. Well, it sounded like the Dolls were on their last legs, anyways. But his idea was to get Sylvain to come over and be the singer for the Sex Pistols, which is how the White Gibson Les Paul and the
Right,
Fender
right.
combos, and because those Fender amplifiers that he brought over, that was kind of quite a big change because they sound really different to Marshall amplifiers. They just got there's one diode that you can clip in a Fender twin combo that just gives it that sound. And it's like the Sex Pistols knob. I think it was a master volume that you pulled out on the amplifier. And so, when I hear again, anyone that's using the twin, particularly the Pistols, and then Public Image as well, there's a certain kind of sound to it. But yeah, but then Sylvain didn't happen because the Dolls got offered a big Japanese tour at some point. But yeah, an interesting story though about from his book. I mean, it's a really good read. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
on so many levels that he his family was kind of from the rag trade in the East End, so there was a bit of a fashion-ish background. His grandmother was really odd. I think his mum really kind of let go of him at an early age. She doesn't sound like she was too nice. So his grandmother pretty much brought him up, and she sounds like she was really eccentric. So, because there's that way that Malcolm McLaren used to talk and lengthen the syllables of the way he talked, which Johnny Rotten kind of copied. That came originally from Malcolm McLaren's grandmother.
Interesting,
That was
interesting.
the way that she spoke, So she and
Hmm.
that were kind of punk attitude in some respects. So.
That's awesome.
But I
I
guess
mean,
the Americans, because who was early on the American scene? Well, Patti Smith was right at the front,
yes,
wasn't she?
yes. I was going to definitely mention her. Obviously, Iggy Pop.
Oh God,
Um,
yeah, the Stooges should have been the
yeah,
first one that I mentioned.
yeah, yeah,
Really,
yeah, yeah. I mean, Iggy Pop is probably, I mean, one of the sole, if not pioneers, definitely responsible for, I mean, punk rock as a, I mean, the for it to be known as the genre it is now,
Hmm.
plus like all the various subgenre iterations,
Yeah.
that spawned, over the last like 50, almost 60 some years at this point, which is really, it's like I'm like a movie music encyclopedia connoisseur.
Right.
I love to consume it. I love to diagnose it, pick it apart, listen to the intricate parts of certain songs. And I guess that's why, like, I mean, I probably like psychedelic rock and heavy metal as like my two favorites, and then punk is definitely in there. I mean, then talking about punk, like a little in the 70s into the 80s, you gotta, as far as America goes, the Cramps
Yes.
is a big one. Misfits, another big one. There's a couple other ones as well. The Ramones, obviously, big one. But I mean, it was very. It's like as much as like the '60s, and I would say the first half of the '70s with like all the classic rock bands. It's like they almost, whether it was due to drug abuse or just being like burnt out through touring and pumping in the studio, being forced to pump out and kind of letting the creativity and the business, side take over, egos, all that. It's like pretty much almost every single major band from that era that did not have their lead singer or like founder all die at 27,
Yeah.
in the same freaking year. They all kind of sold out. And I mean, they still could tour, they still could, sell out seats because they had already made their foundation. But only a handful of them like actually stuck to, I guess, their artistic, like, original values about it being more about music versus, the corporate, business side.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And but in that like gap where disco kind of came in as like the kind of like, mainstream, you had the evolution of punk, you know, really, growing in the underground, and like it was the, in my opinion, the next kind of like phase, in rock and roll history. And it definitely went on. It was kind of like a little short-lived, kind of like how grunge was a little short-lived. Like it had a prime kind of like almost 10-year, prime kind of like existence, and then it was replaced by like the next kind of iteration of rock and roll, which was hair metal kind of taking over,
Oh God.
and
Yeah.
you know very god awful stuff like that.
Which, well,
But
and that was curious. I mean, I guess there's no surprise that that was the same time MTV was
exactly,
also giving birth. So yeah.
exactly. But then the '90s totally, like, in the blink of an eye with Nirvana, it's
Hmm.
completely changed the entire music industry overnight. And I always kind of viewed the grunge era as like really the like 65 to 75, kind of era. You
Right.
had
Yeah. Yeah.
like a huge plethora of music,
Well, I
not
suppose we
just
we just had Guns N' Roses that just preceded that, hadn't they?
right.
By a couple of years. They were the first band that were kind of what I suppose Metallica were anti-hair metal, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say the
And
in
that,
between that took over where punk probably left off in the underground was thrash metal. I
yeah,
mean, Anthrax, Metallica,
yeah, yeah,
um,
Slayer, yeah.
Slayer, exactly. and those bands, I mean, talk about redefining a genre. You basically grow up listening to Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper, and probably from the UK, Atomic Rooster, and some other like metal-esque bands, Led Zeppelin definitely in there, you
Yeah.
know.
But I was surprised because, when I was a kid, who were the big ones in the hard rock era? The biggest of the big ones would have been what? Yeah. Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple.
Hmm.
And then I would have put Sabbath maybe third on that list. Yeah, I thought Deep Purple and Zeppelin seemed to be the biggest. But actually, in terms of who invented the future, it was Sabbath, wasn't it, all the way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like you go back and listen. I mean, yes, Zeppelin was probably definitely bigger. I would say Deep Purple also probably bigger, but definitely in terms of the ones who totally made the signature sound for
Mm,
what just metal is. Like what we know as metal now, and all again the various subgenre iterations, it all originates back to, the riffs from Black Sabbath.
yeah, well, because I mean, comparing those three, for example, I mean, Led Zeppelin were more bluesy and more
Right,
clever
right,
musically. Deep Purple were kind of faster and pre that classical metal genre,
right,
whereas Black Sabbath just wanted to be the heaviest. That was
right,
the game plan, wasn't it? Just to
right.
sound like
And,
a
and, and I
factory.
mean, they were all, it wasn't just heavy. I mean, they were dark, you know,
Yeah,
like that's like the whole, I guess, like vibes. I think the word I'm trying to use to like make like their signature sound. It was dark.
yeah,
Nothing had been done like that before, and it was. I mean, I remember seeing documentaries. I'm sure you lived through it, but it was scaring people. You know,
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. It was a different context. It was just out there, and people just believe what they believe. You mentioned psychedelic rock. I mean, who are the big ones in that? Because you said
Pink
from your
Floyd. Pink
Floyd,
Floyd,
right?
that obviously that's a big one. Major ones. One of my I would actually put them in my five favorite classic rock bands of all time.
Mm,
I have to break like it into, you know, genres and decades. I can't just, I mean, honestly, I actually would say probably Pink Floyd is one of my all-time favorite bands ever. I love Pink Floyd. I would definitely say Lou Reed, The Velvet Underground.
right. Oh wow. What in terms of psychedelic? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, especially Lou Reed, especially his solo stuff. I would say Lou Reed, Jimi Hendrix, and Pink Floyd, probably because there's like several different like the three of them independently like spawned what which now has like so many different subgenres
Mm,
based off of those genres of psychedelic rock that they each individual band created. Like Hendrix is responsible for, psychedelic like acid rock, so like the heavy, riffs and everything. And the two genres that I would say probably take most from Hendrix now that are like current genres would be like stoner rock and like stoner metal.
yeah.
Also taking from Black Sabbath tremendously with that. Lou Reed, he and Pink Floyd simultaneously, but also like in their own kind of like subgenres, created what now is like shoegaze, dream pop, space rock, like all these really like niche, psychedelic rock genres, which in my opinion, that's like my favorite type of music to listen to
Right.
currently because I think it's the most, creative, inspirational, mind-opening, non, corrupted by the music industry. It's like one of the only genres that happens to be really thriving right now. There's a huge scene in the UK for it right now, and actually in Austin, Texas, there's a big scene in California, Portland, for that here in the States, and Canada also has a decent like shoegaze, dream pop, like psychedelic rock scene. There's a lot of good bands coming from there,
Right.
but there's a guy I'm friends with on Facebook. He owns a record label in the UK called Fuzz Club, and every band that he signs and helps record and mixes with, his name is Jason Shaw. Every band that he signs to the label and helps record, produce, all that stuff with, just comes up with like, beautiful, like long lasting, like, timeless pieces of like records,
Right.
psychedelic rock records.
I will check that out. Fuzz Club. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, they have a lot of good stuff. And on the topic of glam rock, actually in the UK, well, one in the UK, one in the States. I was wondering if in the UK, if you were aware of a female artist by the name of Bobby Dazzle.
That's familiar. Hmm.
She just put out her debut album last year,
Well, maybe.
and it's she her whole outfit, the way she dresses is very like glam rock style, like how
Oh,
Bowie and like Hart would dress, and like the sequence jumpsuit, but her debut album, it's like if T-Rex, Bowie, and Jethro Tull and Yes like got together and had a baby, this is who it would be, Bobby Dazzle. And then there's
and
also
where's she out of? Where's she,
the UK.
she's coming out of the UK.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's another artist that is similar to her, but a little more prog rocky, and her name is Rosalie Cunningham. She's also coming out of the UK. The two of them, they did a show last year where Bobby Dazzle opened for Rosalie Cunningham, and it would have been like seeing an epic like Renaissance, like female Renaissance like music, like prog rock. It's like Rosalie Cunningham has been around a little bit longer, and she has a band that she was in. I think it's called Pristine was the original band, and then now she's doing her solo stuff. I might be wrong about Pristine. That might require a Google search.
Okay. No,
Um,
I will go and have a look though.
yeah,
I mean,
and
there's
then
just so much music getting made. It's
I
good.
know, I know,
It's good to get
and
pointers.
in the States, we have a male artist who is basically T-Rex with like Bowie mixed together, and his name is Jossie. Jossie Hughes is the actual name. It's Gysa, I believe. There might be an IA, but I had him on the show. He's one of my little more recent interviews, but what he's like a music prodigy, like literally in the as I'm saying it, and he combines like, art rock with, glam rock with, again, he dresses just like T-Rex would have, but it's literally like if T-Rex was and Bowie had a baby in the States, it would be this guy. And awesome artist. And I believe the label he's on is called Alive Natural Sound. And they have a lot of like kind of like bluesy, like classic rock sounding artists. And I'm trying to think there's also kind of with the classic rock, glam rock kind of vibe. There's a they're big now. They're based out of Germany, called Blues Pills. and it's a female vocalist again, dresses in like the sequence outfits and everything, and her and this other female vocalist from they're kind of like hard rock, kind of metal-esque band from Sweden called Spiders, and both female vocalists for Blues Pillows and Spiders, and they collaborated and covered Moon Age Daydream.
Right. I'll go find that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big one to cover that one.
yeah. It's an awesome cover as well. Both of those bands are fantastic. Blues Pillows, I really want to try and get on the show. They're very big and in the EU and the UK and everything. And same with Rosalie Cunningham, Bobby Dazzle, and all the bands that are on Fuzz Club. But yeah, Jason Shaw, he's someone I'm waiting to get on the show to talk about his various bands and everything, label he has and everything. And there's just like it's I feel like we're in an age where so much music is like accessible and like anybody can do it, but just like kind of how it's always been, like and I think a little more so now with how the mainstream is, but you almost like have to completely sell out and lose your total moral compass and values and everything, and you have to succumb to saying like, I support this cause and that cause and this, and it just is like, it has no business in music or the arts in general. Like, you should all, I mean, I'm of the firm belief that when it comes to arts, entertainment, music, like, it's all right to have like political stance and image, but like as long as you don't like, you know, like make that like, Rage Against the Machine, for instance, they're very political, but like they they didn't make like it be like the driving like focus behind the band. The music was the main focus behind the band.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just like not sure if I'm having it come out clear, like exactly what I'm trying to say, but it just is like I feel like mainstream music today, it's like you have to, I mean, like the thing at the Grammys, it's like who wants to hear, like,
well, that's all part of the tech age, isn't it, really?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there is no mystique anymore. I mean, that's one thing I really miss about the music scene of the 60s and 70s was the mystique of an
right,
artist.
right,
You didn't know what they had for breakfast, or, you didn't get
exactly,
150 selfies a day from them.
right, right.
Well, I guess, I mean, John Lennon went pretty political pretty early, didn't he?
He did, but also like, it was a highly different time.
Well, it
Um,
was. I mean, he was groundbreaking, and I guess a
right,
lot of that would have been just the fact that he was with someone like Yoko Ono that was super
right,
high education level and just and much more conceptual artist and just
right.
a different way of thinking about everything, really, didn't they? And
Exactly,
using
exactly.
the PR potential of the attention that he was getting as a big rock star. So,
Right.
whereas now, it's kind of, I don't know, yeah, it does seem a bit of a cliche.
Yeah, it's like not just a cliche, it just is like it's like standard now. It's like you have to like for as much as they like, preach like, individuality, like, the quote unquote inclusiveness, it's not very inclusive. I mean, like there's people who like their music, and then I don't know, like the people who like a little more originality. There's the radio people, there's people who listen to the radio and are like, I don't know, I listen to whatever's on the radio, and then there's people like, well, I like this music. I like that music. I like variety. I like, watching long movies. I like watching, artistic pieces. I like watching, stuff that intrigues me and, makes me learn and, like takes me away from the chaotic, crazy world that we live in, that, like makes me think.
Yeah, yeah. It is a pretty chaotic world we're living in right now, for sure.
And I mean, but that's where like, music, I guess, saves people. Like literally, I mean, you can listen to a music track, or an album, and it can literally transport, your mind worries, like whatever, like away for, however long the album is, half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour movie, basically hour and a half, 2 hours,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know, but I also think like music, like certain memories, can trigger stuff, and it
Mm.
can also like help heal, like moods you're in and everything.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I guess music, well, it's probably a bigger cultural phenomenon than it is now, just because it had less competition for distractions, didn't it? I mean, now in between the social media and the gaming culture and just news coming to you from everywhere in real time, it's kind of for us. I mean, you we were listening to artists that were kind of almost telling us what books to read or, you know, just
Yeah.
other ways of thinking about things that were happening. And it was kind of, yeah, it was the main source of information in many respects, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, music, and I'm always like music and film kind of, coincide together, you
Mm.
know, I mean, literally, like you wouldn't have the movie without the score, and in some films, like the score is like its own like living entity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What was so watching again recently? Train Spotting.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, it's like you know,
Right.
great movie, great movie. Guy Ritchie, another one of my talking about British
Yeah,
directors.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He the way he incorporates music into his films.
Oh, Lock
I
Stock. I remember
yes,
I heard the Lock Stock soundtrack before I ever saw the movie.
yes. I remember when that came out and how groundbreaking that was, and then
Mm.
the follow-up one, which is probably my
A
favorite
Snatch.
film, Snatch. Yeah, yeah. Snatch is a brilliant movie. Also, the music, you know, like just how he plays. What's the in Lock Stock the Greek, the famous Greek song that they play right before it's like leading up to the shootout in the flat with like the two opposing, the drug dealer gang, and then the four like thieves, and they're all like going to the four main guys like flat, when there's that famous shootout. I forgot what
We got, so I'm going to Google that. Sorry, a bit of Killjoy. It's not Never on a Sunday, is it? Um, Zorba's Dance.
yes, yes. Yes, yes. And then I love how he did the same thing in Snatch with like a Jewish like Hebrew song where it was the scene, the same kind of setup, but it was where the cars were like it was Jason Statham and his partner, and then like Saul and Vinnie Jones and you know and the black guys that own the pawn shop, they're all like driving, and it all like like comes to a climax, and I love his choice of
Oh, I
music.
gotta go back and watch Snatch again.
Yeah, yeah. And that, like, I always thought of Guy Ritchie as like the English Martin Scorsese.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like they
I
both
can.
do gangster movies, and in both of their gangster styles of gangster movies, like one is classic rock is a big, like, part of it, but music in general is like a huge, you know, tool used to help tell the course of the story. I mean, Goodfellas, you know,
Yeah.
a phenomenal film, but like Clapton's,
Oh yeah,
American
yeah, yeah. The
Dominoes, Layla,
reprise from
you
Lola.
know,
Yeah. Oh my
you
God.
know,
Layla. Sorry. Yeah.
also Clapton with Cream, Sunshine of Your Love. Uh,
Right.
that scene with De Niro, smoking the cigarette in the bar restaurant or whatever, where he's thinking he's gonna kill Morty or whatever. You know, that's a signature scene. Just
Is
there's
that the
so
one
many.
where the camera's pulling away? Is that the one in the
Yeah,
room?
yeah, yeah. That's where he's smoking the cigarette. He's at the bar and he's like
Mm.
keeps looking at the Morty guy and just fantastic film. And same thing with Casino. There's Mean Streets even has it early
Yeah.
on. There's, I mean, Scorsese, in all his gangster movies, even his last kind of, not last one, but the one with Jack Nicholson, The Departed. The Departed had excellent music used in as well. Actually, to start off the story, the Stones with "Give Me Shelter."
Right. Wow. Yeah. I'm surprised that Goodfellas, that was 1990. Let's see.
Yeah, 1990.
Wow. I remember I was in shock when I first saw that one. It just keeps coming at you, doesn't it?
There's so many
Joe
lines.
Pesci. Oh my God. Just the narrative arc with him is hilarious. He's just
I know.
bonkers.
By far one of his top best performances. Like that by far. I mean, there's so many lines in that movie.
It's just that
That
he's a scary comedian in that one, isn't he?
right.
But so scary and so funny.
And I actually just found out a little bit of trivia on that note. The scene where the infamous scene, I'm funny how? How am I funny?
Yeah, a
You know,
fucking clown.
that apparent well one I already knew that was like the way Scorsese did a lot of the stuff in that movie was like he'd have the actors like improv the scene and
Right.
then they'd like get it down to a T through improv and then he'd write the dialogue into the script. So that's how it came off very like it's living, because it is. But the extra thing, the bonus thing I just found out about that scene was that apparently Joe Pesci suggested they do that scene to Scorsese, and he said that I don't know how like true and real like the experience that Pesci experienced in his personal life, but something along those lines basically happened to him. And he was like, I think it'd be really good if we put it in the movie here and shoot this scene. And then, the rest happened and the rest is history. But apparently that was a real life experience that happened to
So,
Joe Pesci, and he suggested to Scorsese while they were shooting that they shoot that scene just
wow.
off the whim, and they of course paced all the did the improv and then like put the dialogue in and then shot it, but talk about how actual life experiences can
Oh, yeah, no, brilliant, but brilliantly chosen as well. Because I mean, that character at that point is so off the wall and unpredictable. It makes him
right.
so scary. but then he's talking in his high pitched little voice, and
Right.
he does sound like a comedian.
Right.
It's definitely
I mean, and even when he's like, like right after they kill Morty, they stab him with the ice pick through like the head. The Carbone, what's his name, Carbone or something. Is in the front, like Pesci's in the back. He got Morty from the back seat. He's in the front, and
yeah.
the Carbone guy is like in the driver's seat, and he's yelling at him like, like I'm letting the car warm up. What do you mean you're letting the car warm up? Get your fucking ass moving, like, you know, like they just killed a guy. He just killed a guy. This guy's like a fucking moron, and is like, letting the car warm up, and like the fine, like, to make a situation like, where literally like you just committed a horrific, you know, terrifying act,
Yeah.
of murder. Um, then and then you make a joke out of it, like, you know,
Was that? It's also the same. Was it his mum or his grandma? They go and visit
his mom, yeah, and
his
that's
mum.
actually Scorsese's mom, yeah. Yeah, Scorsese used his mom in a couple of his films, and then I also just found this out. He also used his dad in Goodfellas also. I knew his mom was in a couple of his movies. I didn't know about his dad, especially in Goodfellas. And the scene where he used his dad is when they're in prison, and he's talking about how so and so put too many onions in the
The cooking
sauce.
thing. Yeah.
The guy who's cooking the sauce is his dad.
Wow. Brilliant. That's like
Yeah,
Hitchcock appearing in his
right,
movies.
right. And I mean, and Scorsese even made his own cameo in Taxi Driver.
Of course, yeah. While watching his wife having an affair.
Right.
Yeah.
Another classic film.
Oh, oh God. Yeah. Bernard Herrmann. Amazing, amazing composer. Oh my God. Uh, it's funny actually, 'cause when I went back to art school back 25 years ago, did a fine art degree. And my final project that I did was, well, it was a video loop thing based around the idea of Taxi Driver, where I had part of the script in different languages. Like, so it started off in English and then it went to Paris without you really noticing, apart from the script changing, and then to the French Quarter of Shanghai. And over this footage, I just had two bars of the music, so like literally whatever, two chords of that kind of a loop of that thing. And the university wanted to get a DVD for their collection, but they said, "Can you make your own version because of copyright?" I thought, well, how hard can that be?
Right.
How hard can it be? It was amazingly difficult. We never really got it, to be honest. Oh, we got some, well, if you never compared it, and you've got nighttime rainy footage of taxi drivers with this, but it's just he was listening to a lot of contemporary jazz, Bernard Herrmann.
Right.
So his thing of dissonance, and you know, the bigger the interval, the more dissonant you can be, and and I had to let some really kind of you know high level classical players trying to help me out on this. No one could really work it out. What was a note and what was a frequency, just a sound frequency, even. It was really,
And
yeah.
another film that really utilized that type of scoring, Blade Runner.
Oh, Vangelis, yes. Yeah. That kind of almost invented a genre, didn't it, really?
It did. I think it absolutely did. I mean, also bands like Tangerine Dream that did some scores for films in the 80s. They put together some like Legend that I believe was them.
Legend.
Uh, yeah,
Is that the
Legend.
one with Tim Curry?
Yes.
Right. Ah, Legend.
Yeah, and a young Tom Cruise.
Oh my God, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tangerine Dream. Yeah, that's amazing. The other thing was, just because I've mentioned that, modern jazz and stuff, from earlier on, we were talking about Jimi Hendrix. Oh my God, it was just sounded like there was he almost collaborated with Miles Davis, didn't he, at one point?
Yeah, yeah,
That would
that
have
would
been
have been something.
interesting.
Yeah,
But, and
yeah,
actually, was that in a Miles Davis biography? I read him saying that he was really surprised that Hendrix. I'm sure I read that there that Hendrix didn't know any theory, that it was all done by ear.
yes, yes, that's correct.
I mean, just with because just Hendrix's harmonies and it just feels. God, fuck that's insane.
I'll tell you what, I've been seeing some, it's been circulating in my feed on Instagram. I've been seeing some various clips of live performances of the first Band of Gypsies Phil Maurice performance where he does like the first iteration of Machine Gun
Yeah,
and seeing him even in black and white, just like being recorded, just how like it's like it's like he's it's like what's that famous thing where it's like they play the centaur or that stringed instrument and like the snake, like
oh,
dances.
the sitar and the snake
Yeah,
dance.
yeah, yeah, like literally the noises that he's making come out of the guitar with
Right.
like how easy he makes it look, and let's also not forget that he was a righty that played a left-handed guitar.
Yeah.
Um, so that's like a whole crazy mumbo jumbo
Well, no,
voodoo
he's a
child.
lefty that played a right-handed guitar.
I thought he was a righty that played a left-handed guitar.
I thought he's. I'm going to
I
find a
might
picture.
have that
Oh,
wrong.
yeah. No, Jimmy. I always thought he was a lefty, but he just turned his right-handed guitar upside down.
Okay, okay.
Although it is strung the other way up. But I remember hearing Paul McCartney, because he's a lefty as well. He
Right.
had theories about some of the way that Jimi Hendrix played was different because he had an upside down guitar. That I suppose, well, your volume controls are in a different place.
Right,
They're up
right.
there, so they're right under your thumb. And the other thing is because when the strings go over the headstock, the more string there is, the more elastic it is. So because he's got it upside down, the low E string has got more, there's more length on the string, so it's more bendy than it otherwise would.
Interesting, interesting.
So McCartney reckoned that might have affected some of the things that he was able to play on it.
Right, right. Especially with like Machine Gun, Red House.
Oh God,
Uh,
yeah.
like I mean, Red House is probably one of my all-time. I mean, especially the live. I can only listen to the live versions.
So yeah, for me,
Like,
that was the one that I was in. Yeah, when I was a kid, I loved
like
that.
it like let's get to at least 10 minutes long. Like it actually, if we can go past 10 minutes, you know, like listening to that the Red House versions live. Oh my God.
Yeah,
There's a couple. I think the Winterland album, him live, this is one of the best live albums where he does like a number of different songs and everything. But Red House, the Winterland live, he he has like I think there's one version where it's like almost 15-minute live version of Red House, and he does a number of other longer versions of his songs, like I think
right.
Catfish Blues, Tax Free. I think even Hey Joe, he does like a almost 7-minute version.
Wow.
So that's a great album, and there's one my one of my first jobs was at a gas station, and I was like 18 at the time, And I started playing, like, it was the time where, mixed CDs were like a really big thing. And because I'd be working like 8-hour days, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go nuts, you know, if I'm stuck in this place with nothing to listen to and nothing to do except like just watch the cars go by, people pump gas and all that stuff. So I got a CD radio thing and I started making mix CDs. And I started off by making mix CDs of like all various iterations of classic rock. So it was like all the Hendrix and Sabbath and the Doors and all the good stuff, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd and Clapton and Cream and all the good stuff. And it got to a point where all like the people that were like my dad's age and a little older, the stuffs would come in and they'd be like, how is a kid your age like even knows what this stuff is, especially if it's obscure, stuff like that. And, flash forward, I'm there like a year and I've gotten to know the regulars who I chat with about, music and everything. And some people start like burning me CDs and stuff just because based on what I'm listening to. And there was this one, I want to say she was maybe like a little older than like ten years older than me at the time. And she used to work at some record store when she was like in college or something. And she said, I have this like bootleg Hendrix album that you can't play it here. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't play it here? I said, there's some stuff in it that you can't play it here. And, go home and listen to it, and tell me what you think when I come in next. And she gave it to me, and I'm like, oh shit, there's like Jim Morrison's on this, Janis Joplin's on this, Buddy Miles is on this. You know, I went home, popped it in my stereo, set the mood and everything right, and started listening to it. And one, I will tell you that Hendrix has never, ever, ever made an album like this since, like during when he was alive. It was the whole album was like blues. It was, it
Right.
was, it was like that kind of like very garagey. Like you could tell it wasn't like recorded like on high quality
Yeah.
recording system at the time. I think it was like 68 or 69, and they were in some club, and it was before like they were all of them were like huge. And Morrison gets drunk during the set because he was famous for not being able to hold his liquor, and he gets on the stage, he goes into the microphone and he says, he like is, moaning into the microphone, shit-faced drunk, baby, I wanna fuck you up the ass. And just goes on a complete rant. You can hear Hendrix and the other microphone saying, yeah, yeah, man, say it into the microphone, say it in the microphone, and he is. It just he goes on a rant. I think the section on the track on the album is called Morrison's Lamont. And it's him just going on like a rant, shit faced drunk, what he wants to do to a woman. And it's a bootleg album, a live album. The rest of it is really awesome, but it's like to hear something like that of the time with all of them on it,
Mm.
it's, it's pretty obscure, really hard to find. But if you can track that one down, it might require like actual finding like a physical copy. But
You don't remember what that was called?
it was a live album. I forget what the actual live recording was, but I do know there is because I ended up seeing something from some like group that I'm in on Facebook that's like big into Hendrix. There is apparently documentation of the performance because before I read that, I just listened to the album and I thought they were joking around, but it turns out that they were all at this club and performing, and nobody knew who Morrison was at the time. Like Hendrix,
Right.
Miles, and Joplin knew each other, but then no one knew who like Morrison was at the time. He gets drunk, goes up on stage, and makes a fool out of himself. And apparently Janis Joplin said something along the lines of, I maybe would have done him, but know, not like that. You know, you know. So something I'm definitely not quoting it verbatim, but it's something along those lines. Basically, he's good looking, but what a idiot,
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
he's drunk. Sort of was like along the lines. It's really hard to find. I don't even know how. Again, like she said, she used to work at a record shop and in the '90s, and she got the bootleg album of it. So it's not even like an official album. It's a bootleg album.
right.
So that was a cool find. And then I've had some people like burn me some Robin Trower Bridges Size, which is a phenomenal. Want to talk about guitarists
Yeah,
from the '70s. Bridges Size, one of hearing that guitar moan, you know, a great album, and guitarist artist Robin Trower.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. There's just I could talk about music like literally. There's so much good music out there. There's so much good stuff. Hey there, all my fishes in the sea. Thanks for tuning into today's episode and for being a subscriber. Your continued listenership and support means the most and helps keep the show growing to deeper and deeper depths. I want to let all my guppies in the sea know the Fisch Bowl has now officially partnered with FastCustomShirts.com, where they're now selling custom Fisch Bowl t-shirts under their podcast and website section. Every t-shirt that's purchased helps and goes a long way to keep the show growing to deeper and deeper and higher depths. I also now have custom hats, beanies, handbags, pens, mouse pads, everything to make you look like the coolest looking fish in the sea, which you can DM me directly on Instagram at the Fisch Bowl 88 or on Facebook at just the Fisch Bowl, or you can friend request me, Sam Fish, directly and get yours today. Your continued listenership and support again means the most. It's the most important fishes that flock together. We are a school of fish and we keep the unit going. Let's all keep swimming upstream.